You ready for the questions?
All right, yeah, let's give us one.
Question number 1. Who are and or is your dream guest to get on the show?
Which show?
That's not why you called.
That's not what I call.
Your show.
Dream guest. I don't like. Okay, here's the deal. I've talked about this tons of times. My show, That's Not Why You Called, is a podcast I do Thursdays, 7 p.m. Central Standard / Daylight Time. I gave you Central Time Zone. It's in Central, so you can figure out wherever you are from there. The thing with guests concerning my show, now we'll get to dream guests in a bit. The thing about guests is that I formulated my show specifically not to be like every other podcast you see on YouTube. What other podcasts do, even podcasts that I'm a part of and have been a part of, what they do is perfectly fine, works for them. You like it, you may really like it, and that's great, good for you. But I wanted to do something. Did the autofocus absolutely flip out at me motioning towards the camera?
I didn't see anything.
You didn't see? Okay,
No.
well,
It
good.
might have, I don't know.
Sony. I wanted my show, when I initially decided to do a podcast, I wanted my show to be different. I wanted it to be a little bit more structured, but a little bit in that structure, more free-flowing. And when the topic came to guessing, because I was like, I want to do breaks, because I don't know how many times I've been on podcasts where the hosts or guests have had to go pee or go get a drink or do something, because podcasts 2-3 hours long sometimes, and they get up and they go, or people come in to talk to them. They've got to do other things during the show, and they just get up and you're staring at a blank space for however long they're gone. And I don't want to say unprofessional, because Lord knows we're not professional on my show, but I didn't like it. It didn't appeal to my I don't want to say neat. What would be obsessive compulsive? There's going to be somebody that's not really obsessive compulsive, but it just didn't look right to me, and I didn't really like that. So I thought, well, periodically throughout the show, it would be better if we could tell all the hosts or whoever's on, look, we have these breaks that come up at the bottom and top of the hour. So if you have something to do, if you've got to go get a drink or go get dinner, shut up, ducks. You're not part of the show. Ducks. You can do it then. If you need to call somebody or somebody needs to see you, you've got 3-4 minutes with which you can go do these things. Also, here's the thing. A lot of people use ad block. Ad block is a big thing on the internet. I don't use it, never have, never will. But a lot of people use ad block, and a lot of people watch YouTube content now on mobile stuff, which is actually really cool. The fact that, because when I started YouTube, mobile viewing was this iffy thing, and now it's become a serious portion of our YouTube's viewership. And mobile views and ad block views don't get paid. The native advertisements that YouTube plays don't pay out if you're watching on mobile, they do pay out to YouTube if you watch on mobile. We just don't get paid from that, which is fine. That the mobile issue is a beef between content creators and YouTube. Nothing to do with you. If you watch on mobile, that's the only way you can view the content. That's perfectly fine. I don't care. I hope you enjoy, and I thank you all for liking and favoriting. But the ad block stuff, there's a lot of people that use ad block. Something like 40+% of non-mobile viewership is ad block related. And as a result, there's going to be a shift in YouTube coming. Not a lot of people know this, but there's going to be a shift in YouTube advertising. It's going to move away from those ads, those pre- and post-roll ads that you see, those ads that are abrupt divisions in the video content where you're watching something and then it just cuts to an ad that takes up the entire screen and then the content comes back. We're going to start shifting away from that if people continue to use ad block and YouTube/Google decides to not, I don't know what the technical term is, disallow it or deprecate it or something for use on YouTube. Disable it, right. Thank you, Katie. Producing again.
Yeah.
And so that's going to happen. And so there's going to be advertisers that want to come and say, look, PKA does this all the time, and if my show, Flying Spaghetti Monster Willing, gets to that point, we could do that as well. advertisers will come and say, look, we want to be part of your show. Let's be a part of your branding. Wear a shirt. Give us a read in a radio term. This show brought to you by, or this hour brought to you by Pepsi. Check out blah, 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 whatever Pepsi's selling that month. Shut up, plane! But that's going to start happening. And what the breaks do is it gives me a larger surface area with which to sell advertisements should that happen. And that's a real thing, and I don't mind people knowing it. This is free content for you. You invest your valuated time, your independently valuated time, and you get free entertainment as a result. And my only cost for that is advertising and to make money from that. And that's going to start happening, so that the breaks and stuff give me a larger surface area with which to advertise. Now, on to the breaks and stuff. That's one facet, getting back to the original question, one facet of my show that I didn't want to be like other podcasts on YouTube. Excuse me, I don't want this to go out. Sometimes Freud says sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, but Carlin said, yeah, well, sometimes it's a big brown dick. But anyway, I digress. There's people that hate that I quote Carlin. Did you know that? There's people like, he quotes Carlin too much. Wham, wham, yeah. My name's Curry, yeah. Those kinds of peeps. But anyway, again, I digress again. That's not why you called. Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. The other thing I didn't want to do, like every other YouTube podcast, is show long guests. I didn't want to have a guest every single time. I didn't want the guest to become the focal point of the show like they sometimes do with other podcasts. If you'll see if there are podcasts, I'm a part of PKA, and when PKA has a guest that the groupthink comment section of YouTube doesn't like, for whatever reasons, valid or not, that show is generally regarded as a bad show. Right or wrong, I still don't think it's necessarily fair. And so to make sure that the criticisms, critiques, and praise of my show rests more on the laurels of me and Chiz as a host and Katie as a producer. Don't be mad at me.
I'm not.
To make sure of that, I made an active decision. I don't want to have a guest slot every week. I don't want that to be a thing that we have to do, that we have to lock in every single week, because it will take the focus off of us and off of what we want to accomplish as a show. And what's more, getting people to commit to a 2 hour, I do 2 hours, PKA runs longer than that, and other podcasts run longer still. Getting people to commit to that kind of show length is difficult, especially because most podcasts are done, if they're not live in a studio of some kind, they're done via Google Hangouts. And getting people ushered in and out of Google Hangouts in a timely fashion can be problematic. And so if I was to say, look, I want to get this guest for the first segment of the show, at some point I would have to tell them, get out of this hangout because we're coming back from break soon. And that would be clunky, and it would be very difficult to do, and I think would detract from what I really wish to do on the show. So when such a time comes that we can get guests through different mediums, when if it ever gets to a point where we can do the show off of Google Hangouts, or maybe have a phone-in line of some kind, I've looked into that and things we could do, and have people, guests call us on some line we designate, and then that would open the door again for a call-in show, which I've always really thought would be a cool idea. But that would make it a lot easier. But as of right now, the strict mechanics of how the show is produced makes the very fact that the show is 2 hours long makes guests hard, and the fact that we use Google Hangouts and the mechanics of the Google Hangout make segment-long guests or intermediate guests hard to come by. But all that aside, that's not why you asked or called. Anyway, the question was my favorite guest or my dream guest. Dream guest for That's Not Why You Called. I would really love to have Penn Jillette on the show. You saw that one coming, didn't you?
I had 3 ideas of what it would be.
You had 3? What were your 3?
Well,
This is Katie talking. If you can't hear her, I'm sorry. Shut up, train!
Train has something to
Fuck
say
you!
too.
Yeah, it says, I'm a train, man.
The first two, I guess, would be counted as one in Boris and Bernstein, I would think. Or if...
I wouldn't want Terry Boers on my show.
Okay, well, Bernstein.
Idiot.
Okay.
He's a piss.
Or if he were alive, George Carlin.
Or
George
Carlin.
Penn Jillette.
Yeah.
Those are the
Yeah, if
three
George
I
Carlin were alive. Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing, is it restricted to death? Because George Carlin, I would probably have to put
Him over Penn Jillette?
him over Penn Jillette. And I think Penn would be fine with that too, if Penn knew or gave a fuck who I was, which he doesn't. But yeah, I'd have to say Carlin over Penn Jillette. But if we're talking about strictly people that are alive, and probably people that are feasible if we have enough viewership of the show, probably Penn Jillette. Because I've heard him on Opie and Anthony. He's a semi-regular every time he's got something to pimp. His books are great. God No. What's an atheist? Oh, gosh.
And Another Plane.
What's the first? His first book is called God No, and then the byline, the subheading is something I forget. And then he's got another book that came out last year, which they're both really good, so I'm told. But I've seen Penn Jillette on Opie and Anthony, and he is a prolific storyteller, always engaging, always ready to take up slack, to fill air, and to be convincingly entertaining about everything, and just a riot. And also very logical and reasoned, able to switch gears and talk about atheism or talk about the ins and outs of magic and telling stories like that, and then telling just really funny stories about his life in show business. He's able to switch gears very easily like that. And so I think Penn Jillette would be an awesome guest for That's Not Why You Call Him. And we could get him in and hopefully have some fun. But we need more likes and favorites and viewers and subscribers and all that stuff, so get cracking.